All right. Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to the 100X show. And we have a very, very special guest, one of the few people who actually is having a second interview. The project has been making lots of progress. So we have the pleasure of having back on Shahaf of COTI. How are you, Shahaf?
I'm great. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here again.
How's Tel Aviv?
Well, Tel Aviv is awesome. I told you earlier, we are getting out of the second wave of COVID now, moving in nicely to the third, most likely. But the city is great. We can go to work. The beach is still hot, so life is good in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, excuse me. Tel Aviv was one of my favorite places to go in the entire world. So yeah, all right. So this is a live stream AMA. This is going out to both our channels on YouTube, on Twitter, on Periscope. Gets turned into a podcast as well. Just go to tokenmetrics.com/podcast to download the podcast. So any questions you have for Shahaf, we're here to ask them. So just go to menti.com. That's MENTI.com. Use the code 1966527. That's 1966527 to ask your questions. Now let's just check in here with the audience and see how we're doing, and just say hello. Hello, BTC Motivation. How are you? Miha, Zen, Katembo, Jerry, Raphael. Raphael says COTI plus cVIX equals killer combo. Nice. Bramer, how are you? Okay, all right. So be sure to smash and like the video if you like this video. Okay, so let's begin all the way from the beginning again, right? Because we assume lots of people are watching this for the first time. What is COTI?
COTI stands for Currency of the Internet. We've been around since early 2017. During the first 2 years of COTI, we've actually built our infrastructure, which is fully encompassing finance on blockchain infrastructure. It means that we've built our own chain. It is based on a DAG. So we are one of the only mainnets available out there based on a DAG, super fast, 10,000 transactions per second, super cheap to run. It's already employed, already in use, already processing more than $11 million a month from merchants around the world. It's not just a chain. We've built the entire ecosystem around it. So we have our own wallet that is white labeled for merchants. So there's COTI Pay Viper, which is the wallet, and then merchants get their own versions of it. We've shared with the community quite a few of them. We have our own exchange and fiat on-ramp called COTI-X, our own cryptocurrency gateway, which we've also white labeled for Cardano, that is now used for Autopay. So it's an ecosystem. We see hundreds of thousands of users per month.
So that's
COTI.
You're trying to become the PayPal of the internet in a way?
Of crypto, yes. Yes, in a sense, but we're not just building the front-end stuff, but also the back-end stuff.
So kind of like Stripe in a way.
We're trying to solve what is wrong with the old infrastructure and technology that is used in traditional finance, specifically, the high fees, the latency, the inclusion of 2 billion people around the world. And we're trying to take what's good with cryptocurrency, leaving the bad stuff behind, and merging it into a product that merchants can actually use. And the fact is that it's working, and we already generate value and revenue from merchants that are actually using our technology right now.
Okay, awesome. And for all our customers, we actually do have COTI up on our site. So if you want to go see our analysis, be sure to check that out.
Thank you.
Okay, so now tell us about you. Who is Shahaf? How'd you get involved in crypto? How'd you get involved in COTI?
Sure.
What's your background?
Yeah, okay. So I've been an entrepreneur for the past 18 years now. Prior to that, I will be 43 in about a week or so.
Oh, nice. Me too. Happy birthday.
Yeah, November 1st myself.
Mine is 28th October.
Nice. Happily married with 3 kids in Tel Aviv. And before being an entrepreneur, I had a long Air Force career. Then immediately started with my own company. I later on co-founded and sold Web3, which was sold to Prime Media, and co-founded Positive Mobile, which was sold to Brightcom. So that's my background. Other than myself, COTI team is about 25 people now. Our CTO is Dr. Nira Lohani. He's a math PhD in applied mathematics, has 14 patents, sold his last company to IBM and was their head of research. And so I would say that the management of the team is the median age is probably around 38 to 40. So all of us are pretty experienced in founding companies and running them. And probably more than half of the company is R&D. Again, elite people, everything in-house, top cryptographers from Army intelligence, with experience from the best companies in the world, Facebook, Google, etc. So super experienced team, building wonders together.
Now, what's your crypto story, right? Because I feel like everybody who gets into crypto has that, what I call coming to crypto, kind of like that coming to, kind of like that discovery.
It's a twofold story for myself. So back in 2012, I believe it was, I received an email from Eyal Herzog. He's the founder of Bancor, and was probably one of the first people involved in the space. So back at, I think it was June 2012, he sent to all his friends an emails imploring them to buy Bitcoin. I think it was $15 then or something like that. I've sent this email to myself to my to-do list and skipped it for about 3 or 4 years. And then back in 2016, I was still very much involved in Web3, but I started looking into the space as an investor to begin with. And this is how I met my co-founder at COTI, which was these guys were looking for investment, and I was looking for interesting things to build in the space. And then decided to make a transition. We also sold Web3, so it all fell into place. And then I joined in 2017 to COTI.
Awesome. Okay, so COTI has been making some big steps or big moves recently with the launch of the cVIX index. So could you explain to people what that is?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people are probably familiar with market fear index because it's usually quoted in financial news, VIX specifically created by CBOE. And what it measures is volatility in the market. And volatility is usually correlated directly with fear in the market. So it can be fear of the market crashing. So volatility is a great precursor of that. You can actually use that to try and figure out what the market is predicting, specifically the VIX and cVIX as well measure implied volatility for the next 30 days. And even if the market is high, sometimes the VIX can be high too because people are afraid that the market is going to correct itself. So that is one of the first indicators to what is happening in the market. So this is why this index, the market fear index, became so popular, so quoted everywhere. In every financial website, you'll see the current VIX right there on the top. CBOE did amazing job with that. cVIX, which is not to be confused with, is actually crypto volatility index. When we started looking to DeFi about a year ago, we want to do something different. It needed to tie directly to what COTI does, and we were looking at building a tool that everybody can use. And when we figured out that, amazingly enough, there is no decentralized market fear index for the crypto space, we set our sights to let's build this. So with cVIX, it's a fully decentralized market fear index for the crypto space. It's created by computing a decentralized volatility index from cryptocurrency option prices. And it analyzes the market's expectations of future volatility. So when you look at it, you can immediately sense just by viewing one number, what does the market believe is about to happen, or how does the market price what has just happened, a recent event. So you can look at that and get a good sense of what's happening. But we're not only building an index, we're also building a trading platform around it. So when you see it, you can use it either as a hedge or a trade according to what you predict is happening, or just as a tool to hedge your current profits. So this is that in a nutshell.
Okay, so who's the end user of this? Is it developers who can use it for quant trading? Can somebody who's not technical use this as well?
Yeah, so we've built it to be super accessible for everyone. So of course, developers can use it because it's fully decentralized. The code will be on GitHub. We're building APIs. So any website can put in a widget with the VIX, can build tools around it. Sure, but it's not only that. You can be a trader and use cVIX, and it's as easy as connecting a wallet and buying the current rate of cVIX by depositing ETH, USDT, etc. Super easy. It's not a tool just for professional traders. Okay, it's easier than buying an option on BTC, for instance. But it's not just for traders, it's also for liquidity providers. This is another thing that we were trying to build here, is build an alternative to what can I do with my Access crypto other than just putting it at a swap platform, so people can use my liquidity just directly as liquidity. We thought that this is a very good basis. We see how successful that is, but it's a very blunt use. We wanted to have something that is more sophisticated, and you can be a liquidity provider in cVIX and actually have far greater gains than what you would have than just putting your crypto to liquidity. So that's the third kind of user. So developers, traders, and liquidity providers.
Okay. All right. So can you maybe go into more detail on how the token works? Because this is a new project with a new token. And is the token on COTI's DAG, or is it ERC20 based?
We started, so the token, first of all, it's a governance token. So essentially, if you have the token, you can do two things. One, you can vote on the platform's direction, meaning what sort of tokens people can use as deposit, what leverage, what would be the trading fees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of things that direct directly to where the platform is going. The second aspect of it is that you get a share of the fees created by the platform. So this is the governance token. Yeah. To begin with, we launched it on the ERC20. Just the fastest thing to do right now, because liquidity will come from ETH and USDT, and down the line, of course, we'll create it on the Trust chain as well. And it's also very important to understand the distribution model of the token, because what we've done here is actually decided immediately that we want to have a fair distribution. And fair distribution means that the first principle is that the platform users will control the platform. So most of the civics that will be created will be distributed between platform users. Other than that, there is no pre-mining, meaning everybody starts equal, zero tokens to begin with. There is no fundraising. We're not raising any funds at all to create civics, and it means that there are no VCs or nobody that controls large portions of the token. There are no whales involved. I can explain more of how we distributed the tokens initially, but at a certain threshold, it doesn't really matter how much you have. You can't have more than X amount of civics. And lastly, there is no cost for the token. We're not selling it. Nobody's selling it, and essentially the market will determine what is a fair price for civics, for controlling the platform, controlling the liquidity in the platform, and sharing the fees that come from it. So that's the civics token. And we've already started, by the way, people have already started claiming it. There's a process, about 8 weeks process of claiming about 25% of it.
And claiming it is, so that's to people who are using COTI Pay or COTI Network?
Yeah, I'll dive into this now. To begin with, if you want to have a governance token that works and you're going to share it with no cost, so what is your mechanism to have a wide distribution and a fair distribution? So we thought, hey, we're not fundraising here. So the developers that are developing civics are employed by COTI. It means that people that have COTI should have access to the civics to begin with. So 25% of it, about 25%, is shared between COTI users at no cost. So you can, if you have COTI, you can get civics in two ways. One is have a COTI Pay Viper wallet, have at least 10,000 COTI in your wallet, but not more than 500,000 COTI. So that's the no whales alert there. And you just need to click claim in a 24-hour window that we've given you, and then you'll get civics. That's it, according to how much COTI you have, etc. So that's if you have native COTIs, that's the best way to get civics, completely free. And people have been doing that in the past two claims that we already have. Amazing numbers. I mean, our circulating supply is about 500,000 COTI. That includes native COTI, Binance Chain COTI, and ERC COTI, of which just the native aspect, I think it was about 150 million COTIs were put into this claim. So these are COTI that are out of the market. They have to go out of the exchanges and be at the wallet for that to take place. If you have COTI ERC20 token, and of course you can change between ERC and native through our bridge, but if you have ERC20, then you need to do another thing. All you need to do is deposit liquidity, become a liquidity provider on Uniswap, on COTI ERC20 ETH pair. You do that, and we're taking snapshots all the time, and then we just grant you with the tokens to that address as well. So both ways works. You can determine what works for you better, but that's how you get civics until the platform is launched. I think it will be around December this year. Everything is locked until that point. Not tradable in any way, because I want this platform to be live. I want people to see how it works, to feel it, and then the market can determine how much it's worth. Not before that. I don't want it to have just speculative value. I want it to have utility. So this is the mechanism. And from that point onwards, most of the token, 60%, will be shared between the platform users. So if you're making a trade or you're posting liquidity into the platform, you're getting civics.
Okay, thank you. Now let's check in here with our audience and see how people are doing. Once again, if you have any questions you'd like to submit, please go to menti.com. That's MENTI.com. Use the code 1966527. That's 1966527 to submit your questions for the AMA. And if you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Okay, so let's take a question here from the audience. Let me pull this up here. Okay, so hey, how are things going with Cardano? Is their relationship still strong and moving? Details on the partnership. No news for months. Okay, I'm assuming there's. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Well, I am under some NDA in a sense here, and what I can say is as follows: the Cardano relationship are stronger than they ever were, very strong at the moment. All I can say is that we're working on big things together. I won't say more right now, but when the time is right, you will see that. And this is probably the first place I mentioned that because nobody asked it before. But we have big things happening with Cardano, and that's probably even more than what I should say right now. But I would stay alert on that one.
Now, I mean, are you able to share at a high level what the partnership was about? Because I don't think anyone knows what.
So to begin with, we've hooked up with Cardano a while back, more than a year ago, when Charles Hoskinson was in Israel. He was here, well, sitting at this office, just here, and we had a very long discussion about things. We then later on hosted an AMA together in Israel, a live AMA. And from that point onwards, we've been scoping a few things to build together. The first thing that is already out is ADA Pay. So COTI built a crypto gateway for users or for merchants that want to accept ADA as a form of payment, can do that using a technology that was built by COTI and white label to Cardano. They've mentioned it a few times. And what I can say is that this is that has built a relationship, and we're now looking at bigger things to do together.
Okay, great. And do you have any other partnerships you're working on?
Oh yes, there are a few of them. One of the things, we're looking at big things now, not just do small things for their PR value. So I'd say one of the bigger ones is it's just a huge merchant that we're building dedicated technology to. Won't be long before that is released right now. We're working on our debit card with one of the organizations that you can expect us to work with when issuing one. Working with one of the exchanges on an interesting project, and also for native listings, which became quite a thing after the KuCoin hack. People have asked, and rightfully so, that COTI will have another exchange that lists our native coin, and this is something that we are actively pursuing. What else? Let me. Oh yeah, with Chainlink. We are actually cVIX is using Chainlink's technology a lot, in quite an innovative way. We're building adapters and things that I haven't seen anybody else doing. So that became interesting for Chainlink as well. They have an amazing tech team and biz dev team, and we're working with them on cVIX, and it's of course COTI's project, but we're working on it with them to see how we can expand what we're doing So I would say these are the big things that are maturing right now, but not a week goes by without us talking to one or two enterprises, scoping with them what can be done with the technology. Obviously, these are long processes. Anybody that has ever done enterprise sales understands these cycles. People want results immediately. But we've passed the point of just releasing PR out there. We want to build products with these companies, and if it's not going to mature to that, then we're not going to talk about it before it does. So I would say we're looking at a very interesting Q4, and we're right now sowing the seeds for 2021 as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Now let's go to the next question from the audience. How does COTI choose the test nodes to put in the mainnet? Why does it take a long time to switch from test node to mainnet node? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So there's and I'm very happy that there is a great demand to run a mainnet node for COTI. It's super important for the network itself to have strong node operators. And it's also a lucrative position. You get to affect a lot of the things, and there aren't many mainnet nodes out there. So you get nice return in terms of COTI coins, etc. First thing I want to say is that it's not some people mind. Everybody mind, and we mind a lot. We see the node operators and the test node operators as our closest community. In fact, one of the things that we're going to announce tomorrow is the upcoming Android app for COTI Pay Viper. So the testnet operators and the mainnet node operators will receive it well before everybody else does as an APK for them to test it, like they did with the COTI Pay Viper wallet, and their feedback was amazing. We took a lot from it. So this is a very close community that we care about. Now, the fact is that we want to grow the network gradually, so we can't just run, and it's a DAG, so it's different than just why not open 100 nodes. So we have to take the technical aspect into consideration, and we're building it gradually. Usually we add one node a month or so. So mainnet is live since June. A few months later, we started taking in mainnet node operators. It's now November, and we have about 14 nodes right now. So there's the tech aspect, and then there is the monetary aspect as well. So the node operators in our network process transactions for merchants. So there needs to be proportion between the amount of nodes to the amount of revenue coming into the network, because we want to make it very rewarding for all participants, node operators, people that stake, etc. So we keep this balance all the time. With that said, usually the people that decide on who is transforming from testnet to mainnet is the tech team, not myself. I usually get a name, and I agree, because it's the tech team that actually decides who is very active, who seems to be able to run it, etc. It doesn't mean that there is only one person like that every month. There's usually a lot more than that, and then we just have to be picky. But what I can say is that all the recent node operators came from testnet, and I know the next one is coming from testnet as well. So that is the best way to make sure that eventually you will run a mainnet node running a test node. I hope it can be faster over time. It means that it's a huge success. But gradually, eventually, probably everybody will be able to run a mainnet node.
Okay. All right. On to the next one. Okay. Okay, so somebody's asking, I noticed there's a lot of problems with blocked transactions with COTI Bridge. Are you working on this?
Yes. Well, the short answer is yes, but the longer answer is that the bridge itself was built to allow interoperability between mainnet, Ethereum, and Binance chain. Sorry, but we gotta have a minimal amount of native coins in our mainnet for it to operate well, because we need that for merchant transaction, etc. So at some point where it happened, I think after the Binance listing, naturally a lot of the liquidity moved into Binance because that's how crypto works. We needed to set a minimal amount, and when we reached that amount, we needed to stop that bridge from native to ERC20. When it stabilized, we wanted to reopen it, but then came the huge surge in transaction costs on Ethereum, which made it economical nightmare to open the bridge, because we needed to cover all these costs, and it wasn't slight or minimal. It was excessive. So we couldn't allow the bridge to open at that point. But I think as of 2 weeks ago, the bridge is open, and people can send transactions. Sometimes people don't adhere to the amount that we allow you to pass in each transaction. And when people send more than what is allowed at that point, their transaction is blocked, and it's not good for anybody because their transaction is not going anywhere. We need to fix it manually. It wastes time, etc. But I guess that solving the bridge problem is not by solving the bridge issue specifically, because you can be around that balance for quite a while. The actual solution for that is having another venue with huge liquidity for the native coin, and that will itself balance both sides. And this is what we're actually working on right now these days. Another venue of liquidity for the native coin, and then I think the market will just balance itself and everything will be fine. But the bridge is open now anyway.
Okay, let's go to the next question from the audience. So once again, if you have any questions, just go to menti.com to submit your questions. And that's menti.com. Use the code 1966527. That's 1966527. Okay, next question. When is there going to be access to direct staking without having to join a node? And how safe is it to put our funds in COTI?
Sure. So actually, for quite a while now, maybe 5 months, maybe even more, there is direct access for staking without putting directly on a node. We have exchange-based staking both on Binance and on KuCoin. So that option is already available. It's not done on a monthly basis like it is with nodes. It's done on a campaign base. So there's been quite a few of them, and there will be more in the future. With how safe it is to put the fund in with the stakes, because actually when you send your COTI, it is put on the trust chain. So, well, first of all, I don't want to give anybody advice. If you want to put it on cold storage or whatever, be my guest. We put a lot of our treasury on cold storage as well. So you should know that ahead of time. And one of the things on our roadmap is allowing you to put native COTI on a ledger. So that is already in beta here. So it will be available publicly when we just find the time to do that as well. But internally, we're now looking at a beta that we're using. But other than that, one of the things that actually the KuCoin hack proved is how right it is to have a policy of KYC on all your wallets. So when the KuCoin hack took place, a lot of projects with the profile like COTI were hit. But the fact is that nobody could have stolen COTI from KuCoin because they will have nowhere else to sell it. Because if they're moving it to a COTI wallet, it means that they've done KYC, and it means that we can identify them. So I guess it's safer than just having a general ERC20 on a non-KYC environment where crimes take place.
Mm-hmm. Now, question though. So COTI has KYC on wallets. Yeah. Doesn't that make it centralized?
It makes it supervised in that sense, but COTI is distributed. COTI is not built to be as decentralized as Bitcoin, for instance, because we're aiming COTI for enterprises, and enterprises just can't use these sort of things. If you want to build a payment system, there is no way in the world that you're going to do that without some regulation. Just doesn't work. You're not going to work with top merchants because they're only working with companies that has licenses, and we have licenses, and licenses come with regulation. That's just the basic reality of becoming a big player. You can't be a pirate forever, right? So that's how you're going to build it. And I don't see anybody handling fiat or anything to crypto and vice versa without doing KYC from a certain threshold, usually around $150 or so. So of course we have KYC, that's required, and that's what comes in the package.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's take some questions from the comments on YouTube.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so here's a question. I'm not sure what he's referencing. I think maybe trust chain. What he's saying, is it zero transaction? Are there no transaction fees for the card? Not sure what he means by card, but what are the transaction fees on COTI?
So actually the transaction fees are dynamic and based on supply, demand, trust score, etc. But if you're measuring transaction costs on Ethereum in dollars, in COTI it's fractions of a cent. The node operators can set min or max transaction costs, but the computing cost that comes with it is fractions of a cent.
Okay. Okay, next question from Hobbs on YouTube. Can you speed up the waiting list on staking? It's a long wait.
So again, when we open new nodes, there will be one coming soon. 5 million more COTI can come in, and we can do that because the processing revenue from merchant continues to grow. So that's a very good sign that we can do that and maintain high returns for all participants. Licenses that companies like PayPal has, essentially it's like a banking license, only it's not a banking license because you can't give loans. Highly regulated, and we've worked pretty hard for more than a year to be at this point where it's now probably a matter of weeks or just a few months before we have an EMI license. We're going to have it in Singapore. It has a global appeal, but we're going to have it from Singapore. And when that will be available, it opens up a lot of options for COTI, from how the wallet is used, what can be done with the wallet, what can be issued on the trust chain, for instance, maybe stable coins that can be regulated and work globally. So a lot of things are going to come with the EMI. We're closer today than we were yesterday, much closer than what we were a year ago. If there was a risk of maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't, I think that right now we're at a point where I can say we will get it. Now it's not really up to us. Regulators will be regulators and will work at their own pace, especially around COVID times. But I would say a few weeks, maybe a few months.
Okay, now, so you mentioned Singapore is where
Yes.
it will be based, or why that region in particular versus Switzerland or some other?
Singapore is a global financial hub. You want to have licenses if you can in Singapore, and the opportunity has presented itself there. Singapore is very advanced when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So you don't want to have an EMI license in the place and be a cryptocurrency company in a place that doesn't understand that, because you will never get a license. So we needed a place that understands both worlds. It will also come with a unique cryptocurrency exchange license, but I'll talk about that more once we get it.
All right. So next question, what impact does the news of PayPal getting into cryptocurrencies and their future capabilities have on COTI?
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? It's you can't have any bigger sign of adoption to that, I think. And I think it's great for the space. It's great for COTI. It's you want to have big players, operating in your field to promote it, because these are the sort of players that will promote, proper regulation, adoption. A lot of people can start using crypto, and I think that would be, great for the business. I don't think, we're talking about Android earlier. I don't think Android would have been what it is without Apple actually creating, iOS to begin with. So you want to have strong players in your space, especially when it's a new space, pushing it and promoting it. I think that's great news for us and for them.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel there could be some competition with PayPal?
Maybe, but we're different. PayPal is building, well, we all know what PayPal does, but PayPal is still using the infrastructure, that Visa and PayPal Visa, MasterCard, and so on are using in the traditional space. And if they're going to build a wallet that will host, Bitcoin and maybe other coins, then they're going to be a wallet. We are an infrastructure. It means that, if PayPal was to decide, right, that one day they want to issue their own currency, I'm not sure they would have done it over Ethereum, because transaction costs, because clogging, etc. So they would be looking for proper infrastructure for payments, and this is where we can come into play. So overall, PayPal, it's ridiculous to say that they're bigger than us, because they are so much bigger than us, but they're playing it at a different place in the value chain. Yes, they are with payments, but they are more in the wallet network aspect of it. We're more in the infrastructure aspect of it, and we're taking bites from other pieces of the value chain, but we're focused on the trust chain, not just on the currencies that are issued upon the trust chain.
All right. Next question from YouTube comments. Would you ever consider a monthly token burn and lower staking yield to directly benefit your USA supporters, since we can't stake?
I guess, by the way, USA supporters can stake when it comes to exchanges and so on. And by all means, we have nothing against the US. It's just the regulation is fearsome. With regards to token burn, we have considered that in the past and eventually decided not to do a token burn. We've been reading about it a lot, and there has been, various views on that. But when you're doing a token burn, you know for sure that you are destroying value immediately because you're burning tokens that have a set value. So you're destroying some value in hopes to gain more value in the future. We haven't seen that happening, with the big token burns around us. Even if it's Binance. Who was it that burned 25%? One of the bigger ones that burned 20. I forgot the name, but burned 25% of their supply. Had some price surge, which is again something that we're not dealing with on a daily basis. The prices. But didn't have any more long-lasting effect. So we don't plan on burning COTI right now. We actually created mechanisms that lock a lot of the supply without burning it. We have a 10-year vesting schedule for our tokens. We have a vault in place. We have substantial staking. Whenever we do something like this, there's a claim, and then a lot of the supply is going to that. So this is how we manage supply and demand.
Okay, next question from Menti. Does COTI have plans to release the mainnet support on Binance or any other listing with native support?
Yes, I've dove into that earlier. Yes, we understand the necessity of it, and the answer is yes. We will have native on other big exchanges.
Okay. Now, will the plan be to always have that bridge for people who want to go back and forth between ERC20 and native, or do you plan to eventually just go fully native?
For the time being, there will be a bridge. There is no burning need to do just native. It helps a lot with connecting COTI to other ecosystems. A lot of the space is built around Ethereum, and it allows us to connect with it directly. Just even, cVIX right now, or Uniswap. If we haven't had COTI ERC20, we just couldn't take any part of it, right? We would have needed to issue COTI ERC20 right now, build a bridge. So that strategy has proven itself. We need to understand that there are other ecosystems out there. We need to be able to interoperate with them. So I think the bridge is a good idea for now. Much like learning a second language is a good idea.
Always. Okay, all right, so we always like to put our guests in the hot seat on this show, on the 100X show. So I think it's time to put Shahaf in the hot seat. Don't worry, I don't think it will be that difficult. So we like to ask questions to just kind of learn more about you as a person. So besides family and friends, who are 3 people who have inspired you?
Without family and friends, okay, wow. So I had one lieutenant colonel in the Air Force that has influenced me a lot. I don't think I can't say his name, but he actually taught me a lot about time management, drafting, building ideas in a proper way. There's been, I think, what's his name? Roberto Kiyosaki. And I know it's corny as hell, but when I was 23, working for the government in the army, I didn't even have to think about career because I had an army career. I was an officer and doing what I've done there. But I started thinking, what if I was, out there in the real world? What would I do? And I read this book, and again, it's corny, I know, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And because it was one of the first books that I read on the subject, I just remember where I was when I read it and so on. And I understood right away that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. This is what I want to do. I want to run my own business. And the fact is that I never worked anywhere. I was never an employee anywhere. And not that there's anything wrong about it. This can be great for some people. For me, it was that way, and it was that book that I read and made a decision quite immediately, in a sense that I couldn't have done anything else other than that.
Yeah. Great book, by the way.
Yeah, basic, really. If I read it today, I was like, it was like watching a show that you liked in the 80s or 90s. I don't know, like when you see it again, you're like, did I? That's basic, but back then it was what I needed. So that's what I read, and maybe another thing, I practiced martial arts again back in the days when I wasn't that old, and I think this is one of the first places that actually taught me discipline, specifically the master that I had there, because I was a wild kid, not wild in not doing drugs or whatever, but wild. I wasn't listening, and it was the first place where if you didn't listen, you'll get hit immediately, and it's one of the first places where I stopped and started to listen more and take guidance more, which shaped me a lot, in the sense that I was ready to go to the world later and listen more, intelligence speaks, wisdom listens. So listen and be disciplined and work hard to get what you want, because nobody's going to give you anything easily. You're going to need to work hard for what you want. If you're lucky, great, but you're going to need to work hard. And that was one of the first places that put it into me when I was just a teenager, and I've been working hard ever since.
All right, that's great. Okay, so let's go to the next question. This one you kind of touched on. What are 3 books that have inspired you or you like? You mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Could you name 2 other books?
Let me look at my Audible list, but I like a few things. I rarely read fiction. Like, I love it, but it feels like I'm wasting time. It's like watching Netflix. I'm reading, it's nice, it's fun, it's easy, but I'm not getting a lot. So I like nonfiction. I love biographies, and I read a lot of them. I liked, the Snowball from about the early days of Berkshire Hathaway. I love what Ben Horowitz writes a lot. The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz is probably the best management book I've ever read, and I read it 2 or 3 years ago when I had some experience in management. Audible is great for me. I love reading, but when I drive or when I run, I love Audible. So the nice things that I listened to recently is Algorithms to Live By. It's quite an amazing book.
What's it called?
Algorithms to Live By.
To Live By, okay, yeah.
It takes about 12 algorithms and from computer science, it brings them to real life and how you actually use both. And it's quite an amazing, it's an eye-opening book. Everything that Nissim Taleb writes, from the Black Swan onwards. I recently listened to Anti-Fragile, an amazing book. I recommend it a lot. It's not easy, but it's amazing. Take your time when you listen to it. I love it. Yeah, and when I was younger, I used to read a lot of Buddhist books. I'm translating it from Hebrew. The Book of Living and Dying, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. It influenced me a lot. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. It's not a Buddhist book per se, but it's quite an interesting book. But I read a lot, actually.
All right, great list. Okay, so last question in the hot seat. What are 3 actions you have taken that have transformed your life for the better?
Actions that I've taken that have changed my life for the better?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is actually proposing to my wife, and I'm not trying to be romantic, like one of these guys here, but I was a very professional bachelor for a long while, right? And I met my wife, who was then my girlfriend, for about a year, and she was working at my office. It was my company. She started working for us, and she texted me. We were thinking maybe she's pregnant, maybe, and she was texting me, "I am pregnant." And then I told her, let's not talk about this, in the office in front of everybody. Let's talk about it in the lobby, right? So it's a 11th story. We were at the 11th floor, and we were at the elevator, going down to the first floor. And during this elevator ride, I needed to make a decision. What am I going to do with this? Am I going to be who I always was? And, okay, so maybe an abortion, or, it's a mistake. But then around the 5th floor, I decided I want to marry her and have a kid and not be my typical self. I was 30-something back then, which we did. And we married for over 10 years. We have 3 kids. This kid that could have been aborted easily if I've just been myself, my usual self, is the light of my life. I love this kid. Like I would protect him and cherish him any way I could, right? And it was just an instant. I always joke about that. If my office was at the 3rd floor, I was probably still a bachelor. So that was, a serious decision, and I didn't even know how serious it was back then. I just thought, why not? That's one thing. The second thing is taking care of myself physically. While I'm not always doing a great job at it, I still try. So I train wherever I can. I try to eat properly. It doesn't mean that I always do it, but it's always on my mind, and I'm always trying to take good care of myself, sleep well, eat well, train well. It was easier when I was a soldier and an officer because that is mandatory, but afterwards you just need to take care of yourself. Otherwise, this machine will betray you eventually, and you'll regret it. Maybe last thing that I do is I've taken a decision not to live my life as if today was my last day on earth, because it doesn't make sense, because it's not, and we need to plan ahead. But to make sure that I try to take decisions and try to think about them, like how would very old, not just plain old, very old Shahaf will think about this in 40 years, and I try to think of things that way and see what is important, what is not important. Should I be angry at my mother right now because she just asked me to fix something on her computer instead of just calling it a clean? Should I do that, or do I want to remember myself as, even though I wasn't a kid, I still helped my mother when she needed me? It's like all these things that it's very easy to, just skip by them and just ignore them, but try to figure out what's important and what you think will be important when you're older. making sure that you spend enough time with your friends. That's important. You're going to regret not doing that when you're old. And I'm trying to live in a way that I try to optimize to not having a lot of regrets. So that's maybe the third thing I'm doing.
Well said. Well said. I mean, definitely lots of wisdom in there. Thank you for that. Okay, so one last question here from the audience, from Janice. Where did the idea for COTI come from?
The original idea for COTI came because my partners were in the gaming business, and high risk industries usually, pay excruciating fees for payment processing. They have a terrible acceptance rate, approval rate for transactions. And it felt, in a way that it's just not fair. Here you have a regulated industry working with adult clients, wanting to do a transaction in an area where it's fully legal, like everything is okay, as if you were in Vegas, taking imagine being in Vegas and trying to buy, jeton, what's the word for that? A chip in a casino, and then someone just held your hand and said, no, you can't, because I don't want you to. Doesn't feel right. Or, you're trying to pay with it and it's declined. Ridiculous. So we thought maybe we can fix that. And it's not eventually what we're doing, but this is how it all began. Like, let's try and see what's bad with traditional finance, try to take the good things from crypto, merge it into a product. So this is how it all came to light.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're about to wrap up. Anything else you'd like to share on COTI or on cVIX, or anything else we didn't cover?
Yes, maybe a lot of people ask about how traders can benefit from cVIX. So I would like to talk about three things. And put in mind that this is already working. I mean, we've already shared a few examples on recent events. We're going to have another one tomorrow covering the recent surge in Bitcoin price and how you could have profited from that even if you didn't have Bitcoin, or if you had a Bitcoin and you've profited from that, how you can hedge that and make sure that that you can take away that profit and without worrying from a price decline or even a price incline. But we've tested it around the COVID-19 crisis, the DeFi token price crash, BitMEX lawsuit, Trump coronavirus news, recent OKX. Okay? So all of that is already put into graphs, and we show you that how it works. But traders can make three things with cVIX. One is just hedge yourself against a black swan event. We're circling back to Nissim Taleb now. Black swan event meaning an event that you just can't plan for, like COVID-19, for instance. So if you put long on cVIX, you're going to hedge yourself, because when these events happen, the market fear index usually goes up pretty high, and if you had already had that and you bought it at a lower price, then that gain is yours, and it can be quite a substantial gain. During COVID-19, the market fear index went I think 3x or something. So that is substantial. You're not going to lose 3x of your portfolio, right? So
a quick question, sorry to interrupt. So that's kind of like a form of tail risk hedging, because I'm also a big fan of Nassim Taleb, right? And one of the things they kind of do is buy out of the money put options as a way to hedge, kind of buying insurance on any downside risk. So this is kind of doing all of that without having to manage options.
Yes, so you don't need to manage options, but it's even more than that, because we had in traditional markets, you have options, but you still have volatility index. Why? Because the big difference, and this is a settle point, but you need to get it, is that it's not the same asset class. You can't be very effective with hedging when you use the same asset class as what you bought and what you hedge with. But if you're getting a very different asset class like volatility, you can actually hedge yourself really effectively. So that is like the main difference. But there is not only that, there is also a strategy for an overheated market. Let's say, we're back in maybe July, August, and DeFi is booming. When you want to hedge yourself against both ways, because you like the way things are, but you don't want to just pay a premium and buy a downside protection in case everything crashes, because you still think maybe we'll still do well. If you're buying cVIX, you're actually hedging both ways, because even if the market remains volatile and prices surge every day, 15%, or if it crashes 15%, you don't mind, because either way the cVIX will surge. So you're defending yourself, or not just defending yourself, taking opportunity for any type of volatility. You can be a trader that usually profits from volatility, and there are a lot of strategies of how to profit from volatility.
It's kind of like a straddle for options in a way.
Exactly. So what you're actually worried about is not volatility. It's actually the lack of volatility. When the market just stagnates,
when it's flat, neutral, sideways,
no ways for you to profit. So you can actually go short on cVIX or become a liquidity provider, and you're actually taking profits from that. So there is a strategy for each situation that you're looking at, and this last one is called backslope. So you're looking at a market that became very heated, and the one thing that always happens with volatility is that volatility over time, it can be short time, long, but over time, volatility declines. Everything stabilizes, in this physical system. Everything stabilizes eventually. So if you have enough patience, you can be a liquidity provider. And when cVIX is very high, you know that eventually it's going to have to regress to its mean average. You don't know that on Bitcoin or any other asset class, because what is the right price for Bitcoin? You have many opinions. Is 13 the right price? Is it 20, 100, 3? Who knows, right? But volatility will settle. That's always the case. It can't be different than that. So for the short terms, traders can have great opportunities of hedging or just taking opportunities. I think volatility will increase. Great, I'm buying cVIX now. I'm afraid that volatility will increase. I'm buying cVIX now. So there are many techniques, but if you want to be a liquidity provider, what you're actually banking on, and you can bank on it, that over time, volatility will decrease and you will take substantial profits. And this is why I think that becoming a liquidity provider on cVIX is an unmatched opportunity, because you're not just taking fees from the system. You're not just getting cVIX tokens that the market will decide how much they're worth. You're actually taking the wise position of understanding that volatility will decrease over time. It may be a few days, a few hours, a few months, but over time, volatility has to decrease and you will take your profits. So you're the insurance company for everybody that is buying premiums, which in some cases they're happy to lose because they're hedging a portfolio case that is worth much more than that. So this is a great position to be in. And I think this, and time, hopefully over time we can prove it to a wide audience that that we've created an alternative, not just to Uniswap or Balancer, they're great, but for the swap economy. Swap is super basic. Swap A for B, that's super basic. What we're offering is very different. It is posting liquidity, but we're doing something very different with that liquidity. And I think this can be far more lucrative without the risk of impermanent loss and whatnot. But I think
Yeah, I mean, because this to me also seems like it could be an alternative to elastic supply cryptocurrencies like Ampleforth, because Ampleforth kind of has the same concept where it goes up or down, but eventually it's meant to revert back to the mean of being a dollar, basically a stablecoin. Right? It's basically a volatile stablecoin. But as opposed to being a stablecoin, you're doing it with VIX index for crypto.
yes, but yes, and the nice, the calming factor of it is that we're measuring the biggest cryptocurrencies out there. To begin with, Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So the rules of volatility, everything will apply there because of their high market cap. With smaller caps, sometimes physics change. It's like when you're going on supersonic speed and everything changes in physics. And in these higher caps, we've looked at history, since when you can get historical data. So I think it's 2014 or something that you can get actual data. This thing works. You can look at and decide on the proper trades over time, and this will work every time. And this is why, again, very differently in the traditional finance, VIX, which we're not associated with, this is why it became so popular and so quoted, because volatility is an amazing thing to measure, and it was missing in crypto, and we're very happy to bring it in. And again, in a very decentralized manner, people can build around it. That would be great. We want to see this ecosystem thrive. But I'm hoping, that in our next interview, we could look back to today and say, wow, this is so much bigger than what we have anticipated.
So currently you have Bitcoin and Ethereum. Any plans to add other cryptocurrencies?
It depends on their perspective on market cap, and we're using Chainlink's Oracle to gather all the data. So it depends on where they are connected and how data is gathered. But even now we're covering more than 70% of the market anyway. So we're pretty good as it is. But yeah, as this ecosystem grows, it can grow with it easily.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, I think it's also important to know that we while we've built CVIX in the nights, we're still working in the days building COTI, and a lot of exciting things happening. I've hinted to some of them, but we will have the GTS, the Global Trust System for Bitcoin, coming, debit card, EMI license, which I've mentioned. We're going to disclose an amazing merchant coming into the network, and a few other surprises in the horizon, all happening in this quarter.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Shahaf. It was a pleasure having you back on the show. Great work. I keep it up. I'll definitely check out the index. I think it's definitely good for even our team in terms of our quant trading and our quant research. Now, with that being said, everything said here is just our opinions. Nothing here is financial advice or is do your own research. This is a free interview, not paid, not sponsored. We just think this is a very interesting project, especially in this very volatile market. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to just drop them down below. And with that being said, as we like to say, the moon is not the limit to the moon and beyond. Thank you. Sure.